When it comes to manner, I think it's really important to be yourself. Everyone's going to present slightly differently, and that's okay. We all come in different shapes and sizes. Don't let anybody tell you that you should be speaking in a particular way to conform to a particular norm, because that's just not true. Anybody can debate, anyone can do public speaking, and that's the end of that. When it comes to stance, it's really important to remember that you do have some room to move across the floor in debating. That doesn't mean dancing from side to side, but it does mean that you don't need to be rooted in one place in the middle of the stage. I find that speakers look a lot more comfortable and confident when they've realized that they actually have the license to move forward and backwards as they're speaking. One of my pet peeves as an adjudicator is watching students turn around and address their opposition directly. It's really aggressive and it doesn't have a place in debating as it stands. Debating is an oratory game where you need to be convincing the adjudicator and the audience that you're more correct and more persuasive than your opposition. There is no room for any kind of personal attack, and that includes intimidation by looking at the other team.
My top tip for manner is to speak at a pace that you feel comfortable with. A lot of speakers feel the pressure to speak really fast to try and get through all the content they have to say, or to speak too slow so that the audience can actually listen to everything. It's important to speak at a pace that you're comfortable with, and I generally recommend that you speak at a pace in which you can prepare the next sentence in your head. No faster, no slower. Another tip about manner is to use bullet points as soon as possible. Although newer speakers like to heavily script their speech, we find that the sooner you move to dot points, your speech becomes more free-flowing, more natural, and easier for the audience to follow.
Another important aspect of manner is the use of eye contact. So you don't want to be staring down at your page reading your speech, but you also don't want to be staring at the back of the room or fixating on just one person.
Make eye contact with the audience with a purpose. And the purpose is to make sure that you can see whether they understand what you just said. And you can look at their body language, you can look at the adjudicator's body language, as well as the adjudicator's eyes to see whether they would like to hear a little bit more of what you'd like to say, or are they just confused by the complexity of the argument you just made. And if that's so, restate it, repeat it, or elaborate. Another manner tip is to make sure that you have sufficient volume whenever you speak. A guideline is that someone who has their back against the wall that you're speaking towards can hear every syllable of what you're saying. A tip that I like to give in order to make sure that happens is to make sure that you throw your voice or cast your voice towards the back of the room.
One of the things I find most effective is voice modulation or pitch. This is how high or how low your voice is when you speak. And this can give off a sense of authority or a sense of authenticity to your speech. As an adjudicator, I find it particularly persuasive when a speaker comes across as genuine and injects emotion into their speech. And this is very clearly shown through their pitch.
One of the best things about speaking well in a debate is having a command over your audience. And the best way to do that is to learn how to pause for effect. When it comes to delivering any kind of speech, public speaking or debating, you can use a pause in order to try and gather your thoughts, in order to make you seem much more compelling and convincing. And generally speaking, it's a bit of a hack. And that's what we want you to learn, kids, how to cheat. I'm going to try that again. I want to talk to you about pausing. Pausing is really important in order to make a good, solid point. If you learn how to pause correctly, you can keep your audience just hanging on, listening to you, and making sure that they're engaged the entire way. Pausing gives you the time to think about what you're going to say, and it allows the adjudicator a moment to take stock of what you've just said.